The courtroom froze the moment the woman in the blue blazer marched in, chin high, waving a stack of fake violation notices like royal decrees. She called herself the president of a homeowners association that did not exist. She even tried to lecture Judge Judy about proper neighborhood standards. 40 seconds later, deputies were already moving toward her. But what Judge Judy said next silenced the entire room, including the deputies. The woman in the blue blazer refuses to sit. She plants herself in the center of the courtroom, as if it belongs to her. And for a moment, you can feel the room react, not in fear but in disbelief. The camera widens across the courtroom, catching murmurs traveling like a small ripple through the audience. Diane Mercer stands rigid, shoulders square, chin raised just enough to announce superiority. She is holding a thick binder pressed against her chest the way some people hold a shield. Every page inside it bends slightly under the pressure of her grip, as though even paper feels her force. Judge Judy watches her quietly. There is no anger in her eyes, only that sharp, surgical curiosity she carries like a tool, the kind that strips away pretense without raising her voice. But Diane does not notice. She has already claimed the space as hers. "I am the president of the Homeowners Association," Diane declares, voice ringing out before anyone asks her to speak. Her blazer sleeve flicks as she gestures dramatically toward the gallery. "And I expect this court to respect the authority of my position." The air tightens. A few audience members exchange glances. A mother in the second row gently pulls her child closer, whispering something that sounds like, "Just watch." Judge Judy leans back, letting the silence do its work. "Which association would that be, Ms. Mercer?" she asks, the words calm and steady, like stepping stones across water. "The Lakeside Ridge HOA," Diane replies quickly, as though she has rehearsed it. She flips open her binder and proudly holds up a printed notice. A fake lien violation marked with official-looking seals that glint faintly under the courtroom lights. But the edges are too crisp, the ink too fresh, the font too modern. Across the aisle, Maya Torres sits quietly, her hands folded over a thin tan folder. She has not said a word, but her posture gives her away, shoulders tense, knees pressed together, jaw clenched every time Diane uses the word authority. She watches Diane like someone who has lived months under her shadow. Judge Judy turns her attention to the notice Diane is displaying. "You issued this?" she asks. "I enforce the community standards," Diane replies. "People think they can lower property values without consequences. Not under my watch." The words hit the room with a strange mix of confidence and threat. Even the bailiff shifts slightly, sensing the temperature change. Judge Judy studies Diane for a long, unbroken moment. "Ms. Mercer," she says, "your county does not have a registered HOA for that neighborhood." Diane laughs, a short, sharp sound that feels more like a blade than amusement. "I stepped in because the community needed leadership," she snaps. "Someone had to maintain order." The camera slowly tilts toward Maya as she grips her folder tighter, knuckles whitening. Judge Judy's gaze narrows. "And what," she asks softly, "gives you the authority to remove people from their own homes?" Diane lifts her chin higher. "I do," she says. And Judge Judy leans forward, not in anger, but in the kind of silence that reshapes a room. Diane's smile is too confident, the kind worn by someone who mistakes noise for strength. She holds that binder like it is a crown. And for a moment, she looks almost proud of the fear she created. Judge Judy lets the smile linger in the air between them, studying it the same way someone studies a flicker before a storm. She folds her hands, elbows resting lightly on the bench. The courtroom lights hum softly overhead, casting a cold, even glow that makes Diane's confidence look sharper than it should. "Ms. Mercer," Judge Judy says, "let us talk about this neighborhood you claim to represent." Diane straightens, eager. "Lakeside Ridge is falling apart," she announces. "Overgrown lawns, inconsistent paint colors, cars parked wherever people feel like it. I am restoring standards. The gallery reacts with a low ripple, part disbelief, part exhaustion. People who have lived under her fabricated authority feel the tremor of those words in their bones. Judge Judy raises one eyebrow. There is no HOA in your county records. None. Not now, not ever. Diane waves a dismissive hand. Technicality. The residents understand I took initiative. They needed structure. Across the room, Maya finally lifts her eyes. They are soft but tired, carrying the weight of months spent dealing with this woman. No one asked her to do anything, she says quietly, voice steady but edged with hurt. She showed up one more. Ning with a clipboard and started writing citations. Diane spins toward her. Because rules matter, Maya, property values matter, discipline matters. Judge Judy taps the notice Diane brought with her, a hollow imitation of government paperwork. You have been distributing these under the claim of legal authority. They are guidelines, Diane argues. Strong guidelines, suggestions with consequence. Suggestions do not threaten people with liens, Judge Judy replies. Her tone is flat, controlled, and far more cutting than raised volume ever could be. Diane flips open her binder again, revealing pages of bylaws written in dense paragraphs, formatted as though she copied from a county manual. But the pages are too clean, too perfect, too new. The ink has not even faded into the fibers yet. Judge Judy gestures toward the binder. When were these written? Recently, Diane says, because someone had to take responsibility after the neighborhood fell into chaos. Maya shakes her head softly. The only chaos was what she created, she murmurs. She left notices on doors at dawn. She measured people's lawns with a tape measure. She photographed children's bikes and wrote them up as clutter. Diane's smile returns, tighter this time. I care, that is the difference. But the room feels the truth tightening around her. The difference is something far less noble. Judge Judy shifts her gaze. Miss Torres, she says, hand me the folder you have been holding since the moment you walked in. Maya hesitates, then slowly rises, her fingers trembling just slightly as she approaches. The folder touches Judge Judy's desk with a dull, heavy thud. Diane's smile fades for the first time, and the courtroom's silence deepens, as if it already knows what that folder contains. The folder lands on the desk with a subtle thud, the kind that makes the room inhale. Its edges are frayed, its corners softened by months of handling. And even before it opens, everyone feels the weight inside. Judge Judy rests her fingertips on the cover for a moment, letting the quiet thicken. The ceiling lights glare off the glossy courtroom tiles, casting a pale shimmer across the folder like a thin veil of truth waiting to lift. Diane stands straighter, trying to reclaim her earlier confidence, but something in her posture betrays her, a stiffness, a shallow breath, a flicker behind her eyes. Miss Torres, Judge Judy says gently, you may sit. Maya nods and returns to the plaintiff's table. Her hands settle in her lap, clasped tightly, as if letting go might make her crumble. The folder sits between the two women now, Maya's past, Diane's future. Judge Judy opens it. The first page is a photograph. Diane, illuminated by the glow of a porch light, slipping a notice under someone's door. Her stance is authoritative, her expression severe, her fake badge catching the light like a promise of punishment. The audience leans in. Judge Judy studies the image with clinical calm. This is you, she says to Diane. Diane shrugs. Documenting violations is part of my duty. Judge Judy turns the page. Letters spill out, dozens of them, each stamped with final warning, each threatening consequences that do not legally exist. The font is bold, aggressive, and manufactured to mimic official language. The signatures at the bottom look oddly identical, as if traced or repeated. But what freezes the room is not the letters. It is the device tucked inside. A small audio recorder. Judge Judy picks it up, her expression unreadable. "Ms. Torres," she asks, "this is yours." Maya nods. "I started recording after she came to my door 3 nights in a row," she says softly. "She pounded on it at midnight. She frightened my son." Diane laughs too quickly, too loudly. "That is an exaggeration. I knocked firmly. Some people need clear reminders." Judge Judy presses play. A voice fills the courtroom, Diane's voice, sharp and self-important, ordering Maya to pay fines, threatening enforcement action, warning that noncompliance could result in formal proceedings. The tone is unmistakable, intimidation disguised as authority. Diane tries to talk over the audio, but Judge Judy raises one hand. The courtroom stills instantly. The recording continues. One line strikes harder than the rest. "You will learn to respect this community. I decide what happens here." The room shifts. Even the bailiff's jaw tightens. Judge Judy stops the recording and turns a page slowly, deliberately. Inside the folder, a single photograph sits alone, protected by a plastic sleeve. She lifts it carefully with 2 fingers, holding it at an angle where the light catches something metallic on Diane's jacket. A badge. Shiny, official-looking, not a toy. Not symbolic. Judge Judy's expression changes, subtle, but sharp enough to cut the room in half. Her eyes lift to Diane. And the next question forming on her lips promises a shift the courtroom is not ready for. Judge Judy holds tea. He photo delicately, as if the truth inside it might spill. The air turns colder, tighter, heavier. Even Diane seems to sense a line she cannot step back from. Judge Judy angles the photograph so the courtroom lights skim across its surface. The metallic badge pinned to Diane's blazer glints sharply, catching a cold beam that cuts through the stillness. The badge is too realistic, polished metal, embossed lettering, an emblem that looks almost official. Not homemade, not symbolic, something meant to be believed. "This is you?" Judge Judy asks, not lifting her eyes. Diane forces a smirk, but her confidence wavers. "Obviously it is me. I was documenting noncompliance." Judge Judy lets the silence stretch, not empty silence, but the kind that rearranges the room's oxygen. "Explain the badge." "It is decorative," Diane replies too quickly. "A visual cue, something to signal authority." Judge Judy looks up. "Authority you do not have." Her voice is calm, but the weight behind it lands like a gavel strike. Diane swallows. Her grip on her binder tightens until the plastic cover dents under her fingers. Maya watches from the plaintiff's table, her breathing controlled but shallow. She has seen this badge before on her porch, in the shadows, reflecting back at her like a warning she never asked for. Her son had cried that night, asking if the police lady was going to take their house. Judge Judy places the photograph on the desk between them. The camera focuses in a slow, deliberate zoom, the badge in crisp detail, the stern expression on Diane's face, the threatening notice in her hand. A freeze frame of impersonation. "You understand what wearing something like this implies," Judge Judy says. "What it communicates." Diane tries to laugh, but the sound is thin, shaky at the edges. "It is symbolic. People take rules more seriously when there is presentation." "Presentation," Judge Judy repeats softly, leaning forward. "Ms. Mercer, this is not Halloween. This is not cosplay. You use this badge to intimidate residents in a neighborhood where you do not even live." The last words slice deeper than any raised voice. Diane blinks, eyes darting briefly toward the gallery as though hoping for someone, anyone, to defend her. No one does. Judge Judy reaches for another page, pulling it free slowly. It is a photo taken from farther away, Diane walking the street at 1 a.m., flashlight sweeping over windows, the badge catching every beam like a predator's eye. "You conducted inspections at night?" Judge Judy asks. "They left trash cans out," Diane mutters. "At 1 in the morning." Diane's mouth opens, closes. No answer forms. Judge Judy's tone sharpens, but only by a fraction. Children in that neighborhood were afraid of you. People believed you were connected to law enforcement. You used fear as leverage. Diane's face reddens. That was never my intention. Intent does not erase effect, Judge Judy replies. The courtroom grows impossibly still. Even the flicker of the overhead lights seems to pause. Judge Judy taps the badge in the photograph once with her finger, a soft sound, but devastatingly final. "Ms. Mercer," she says quietly, "where did you get this badge?" Diane freezes, and the entire courtroom feels the temperature drop another degree, because the answer will change everything. The moment Diane hesitates, something shifts, a tremor in the air, too subtle for sound but loud enough for the truth. Her fingers twitch, and Judge Judy notices everything. Diane's eyes dart to the photograph again, as if hoping the badge might somehow look less real the second time. But the metal glints back at her, unwavering. The courtroom lights above catch its ridged edges and make it impossible to deny. Judge Judy, hands folded, watches Diane's face instead of the evidence, because reactions reveal far more than objects ever do. "Where did you get the badge?" Judge Judy repeats, each word placed with surgical precision. Diane inhales slowly. "Online," she murmurs. "From where?" Judge Judy asks. "A beat. Then another. A vendor," Diane finally says. "They sell novelty items. People use them for costumes or—" "Which vendor?" Judge Judy cuts in. Diane swallows hard. "Shield Star Security Supply." The bailiff's eyebrows lift. The audience murmurs, the name clearly recognizable to more than one person in the room. Judge Judy's expression does not change, but the silence around her tightens like a drawstring. "Shield Star," she repeats, "a company that sells equipment exclusively to licensed private security personnel, not novelty items, not toys, not decorations." Diane's mouth opens, then closes. She grips the edges of her binder so tightly the plastic cover caves inward. I did not know," she stammers. Judge Judy tilts her head slightly. "You expect me to believe you stumbled onto a restricted vendor by accident, that you purchased a professional security badge without understanding its purpose." "It was for community organization," Diane insists, her voice thinning. "People need structure. They listen when they see." "A badge," Judge Judy finishes, "one identical to what real officers wear." Diane's breathing quickens, sweat beads at her hairline. "I never claimed to be a police officer," she argues weakly. Judge Judy gestures toward Maya's folder. "You did not need to say the word police. You showed up at people's homes late at night with a badge, a flashlight, and fabricated authority. You delivered false violation notices demanding payment. You threatened escalation. That is impersonation by effect, Ms. Mercer, not by vocabulary." The words land heavy, rhythmic, and unavoidably true. Across the aisle, Maya watches quietly, her own hands shaking not from fear anymore, but from the strange release that comes when someone else finally sees what you have been living under. Judge Judy continues, "Your receipt indicates you purchased 6 identical badges. Why would one woman need 6? The question strikes harder than any accusation. Diane's face pales. "Spare backups," she says quickly, too quickly, "in case one got scratched." The bailiff steps forward instinctively, posture stiffening as the danger becomes less hypothetical and more deliberate. Judge Judy's voice lowers. "Ms. Mercer, have you ever introduced yourself to residents as neighborhood enforcement?" Diane's silence is her answer. Judge Judy leans back, the entire courtroom bracing for what comes next. "Bailiff," Judge Judy says softly, "play the recording marked entry 3. Diane's eyes widen, and for the first time, she looks genuinely afraid of what the truth might sound like. The moment the audio starts, Diane's face tightens, as if the sound itself pulls her skin taut. Her eyes flick from the speaker to Judge Judy to the gallery, desperate for an escape that does not exist. And for the first time, the room sees her confidence crack. The recording begins with footsteps crunching over gravel, steady and purposeful. A flashlight clicks on. A doorbell is pressed, held too long, followed by impatient knocking. Diane's voice enters the room like a cold draft. "This is neighborhood enforcement," the recording says. "Respond immediately." Diane flinches at her own words, but Judge Judy does not. She remains absolutely still, her focus trained on the speaker as though the truth itself has entered to testify. The recording continues. Diane's tone is clipped, official, mimicking the cadence of someone accustomed to compliance. "Failure to pay your outstanding fines will result in further action. Do not test the integrity of this community." The courtroom swallows the words whole. Diane tries to jump in. It was a figure of speech. Judge Judy lifts a single finger. Silence snaps back into place. The next part of the recording plays. A child's voice in the background, confused and frightened, asking his mother if the badge lady is going to take their house. Maya looks down. Her hands fold together, tight and trembling. The subtle rise and fall of her shoulders betrays the memory pressing against her ribs. When the audio ends, the room stays quiet long enough for the hum of the lights to become audible. Judge Judy looks at Diane with a level, unmoving gaze. "Ms. Mercer," she says, "you introduced yourself using terminology intentionally designed to suggest official authority. You approached homes at night. You intimidated residents, and you justified it with the illusion of power." Diane's breathing speeds up. "People weren't following standards," she insists. "Someone had to take responsibility." "Responsibility," Judge Judy repeats, "is not the same as control, and certainly not the same as impersonation." Diane clutches her binder to her chest. "I never pretended to be police. I never said I was law enforcement." "You did not need to." Judge Judy's voice is steady, surgical. "You created the impression. You relied on fear." The bailiff shifts subtly, a quiet warning in body language alone. Maya lifts her eyes. "She terrified us," she says softly. "She came every night that week. I thought she would break down the door." Diane wheels on her. "You always exaggerate." "No," Judge Judy interrupts sharply. "She does not." The room freezes. Slowly, deliberately, Judge Judy leans forward. "Ms. Mercer," she says, each word carved with precision, "I have one question left, and I want you to think very carefully before answering it." Diane swallows, throat bobbing. "Do you even live in that neighborhood?" The question drops like a stone into still water. Diane's face drains. Her mouth opens, then closes. No sound comes out. The audience shifts, whispers spreading like a low tide. Judge Judy's eyes narrow, her gaze piercing through whatever illusions remain. "Answer the question," Judge Judy says quietly. And Diane's silence speaks louder than any lie she has told so far. "If you lived on that street, would you confront her or stay silent and hope she never came to your door?" Diane finally opens her mouth, but the words do not come out strong. They leak thin and nervous, like she is afraid of hearing them herself. And in that hesitation, the room senses the truth before she speaks it. The fluorescent lights buzz softly overhead, the only sound brave enough to cut through the silence. Diane shifts her weight, binder pressed against her chest like a crumbling shield. Her voice, once loud enough to command porches at midnight, barely rises above a whisper. "I do not live there," she says. Judge Judy does not react. Not with surprise, not with frustration. She simply exhales, a slow, deliberate breath that carries the weight of every false claim, every fake notice, every night Diane stood on a stranger's property pretending to be something she was not. "Where do you live?" Judge Judy asks calmly. Diane stares at the floor. "Riverview Heights." Maya looks up sharply. That is 20 minutes away, she says, disbelief edging her voice. 27, Diane corrects, a correction that lands like confession. I rent. I am not part of Lakeside Ridge. The gallery reacts instantly, gasps, soft curses, someone whispering, "You have got to be kidding me." Even the bailiff tilts his head, as if recalibrating the danger level of the woman before him. Judge Judy's tone stays flat, which makes it even more devastating. So you inserted yourself into a neighborhood that is not yours, created rules that no one agreed to, issued fines that had no legal foundation, and intimidated residents in a community where you have no standing. Why? Diane clutches her binder tighter, her knuckles turn pale. They needed leadership, she mutters. Leadership, Judge Judy repeats, is not something you impose, it is something communities choose. Diane's jaw twitches, her voice grows defensive. The neighborhood looked unregulated, people were doing whatever they wanted. That is called freedom, Judge Judy says. A shaky breath escapes Diane, a sound close to a sob but trapped behind stubborn pride. The courtroom feels the shift, the unraveling beneath her posture, the collapse she is trying desperately to fight off. Maya speaks quietly, voice trembling but controlled. She targeted us because we were easy, families, elderly residents, anyone who stayed quiet. Diane turns on her, eyes widening with something near panic. I was testing structure, she insists, evaluating potential, seeing how order might be restored. Judge Judy narrows her gaze. Evaluating. Ms. Mercer, you treated a community like a personal experiment. Diane blinks rapidly, struggling for breath. It was preparation. For what? Judge Judy asks. The question hangs in the air like a held note, vibrating through every corner of the courtroom. Diane's face goes rigid. She refuses to answer. Judge Judy turns to the bailiff. Bring me the original notices she distributed, she instructs. The bailiff retrieves a thick stack of papers, bound together with a rubber band so tight it looks painful. He sets it on the desk with a weighty thump, a sound that feels like evidence taking its place. Diane flinches at the noise. Judge Judy rests a hand on the stack, her expression unreadable. Let us see, she says softly, exactly what you imposed on these people. And the room leans forward, bracing for the truth inside those pages. The stack of papers lands with a dull, heavy sound, too heavy for mere warnings. Even the rubber band seems exhausted, stretched from holding together so many lies. And as Judge Judy removes it, the room holds its breath. The bailiff steps back. Judge Judy takes her time, peeling the band away with a slow, deliberate motion that feels almost ceremonial, like unwrapping a truth the neighborhood has lived under for far too long. The pages fan out slightly, exposing bright red stamps, bold lettering, and language that looks alarmingly official. Judge Judy lifts the first notice. It is formatted like a government document, block paragraphs, legal references, a fake seal printed in ink thick enough to shine beneath the courtroom lights. The header reads, Final Notice of Compliance, Authority Required. She scans it with measured precision. Ms. Mercer, she says, this notice is nearly identical to the county's official lien enforcement documents. Diane stiffens. It is inspired by them. Inspired, Judge Judy repeats, her voice a razor sheet of calm. You copied legal material, word for word. I only changed a few lines, Diane mutters. That is the problem, Judge Judy replies. She lifts another page, this one addressed to a resident named Mrs. Flynn. It lists supposed infractions, porch clutter, grass height variance, inadequate curb decor, all subjective, all absurd, all carrying threats of escalating penalties. Maya shifts in her seat, pressing a palm against her thigh as if grounding herself. Her voice is soft but unwavering. She left those notices everywhere. Then on doors belonging to people she had never spoken to. Judge Judy holds up a notice stamped with the phrase "immediate seizure warning." She examines Diane over the top of the paper. "You used the term seizure. Do you understand the legal weight of that word?" Diane bristles. "People take things seriously when consequences sound serious." "That is precisely the issue," Judge Judy says. "You designed these to frighten." Diane's foot taps against the floor, small, jittery, a rhythm of unraveling. Fear encourages compliance. The gallery feels the shift. A mother in the back shakes her head. Someone whispers, "She really said that out loud." Judge Judy lays out several notices side by side, arranging them neatly, like a surgeon preparing tools before an operation. "These are not guidelines. These are threats. And you circulated them publicly, with no legal authority, in a community that did not choose you." Diane holds her binder close. "If people had followed the rules." "Rules you invented," Judge Judy interrupts. The bailiff steps forward again when Judge Judy pulls out a particular notice, one written in firmer, almost desperate handwriting. It is dated 2 months prior. "This one is different." Judge Judy reads it silently, jaw tightening. Then she looks directly at Diane. "Ms. Mercer," she says, voice low, "did anyone ever pay you these fines?" The air thickens instantly. Diane freezes. Every eye in the courtroom turns toward her, not out of curiosity but dread. Her fingers twitch around her binder. "I cannot recall," she murmurs. Judge Judy's gaze burns through the lie. "Let me ask again," she says, softer but sharper. "Did anyone pay you?" Silence. Diane's throat moves as she swallows. Judge Judy leans back slowly, eyes narrowing. "I think someone did," she says. And the room trembles with the truth waiting to break open. The side door opens slowly, not with drama, but with the quiet dignity of someone who has already suffered more than this room will ever understand. An elderly man steps inside, clutching a thin piece of paper like it is the last proof of his own fear. And Diane's entire body goes still. The bailiff guides him gently toward the witness area. He moves with careful, deliberate steps, the kind that come from a lifetime of balancing pride with fragility. His palms tremble around the small, folded receipt he carries, its edges soft from being handled too many times. Judge Judy watches him with respectful stillness. "Sir," she says gently, "please take your time." He nods, lowering himself into the chair with effort. His breathing is shallow, each inhale edged with nerves. His eyes, pale, watery, honest, lift briefly toward Maya, who gives him a small, encouraging smile. Judge Judy folds her hands. "Please state your name." "Arthur Halpern," he says softly. Diane flinches at the name. Judge Judy nods. "Mr. Halpern, what do you have in your hand?" He hesitates, then holds up the receipt. It shakes noticeably. This is from her," he says, pointing at Diane without raising his head fully. "She said I owed $900 for violations." The gallery murmurs, shock rolling across the rows like a soft wave. Diane's eyes widen, panic flickering behind them like a candle in wind. Judge Judy takes the receipt. It is handwritten, sloppy but forceful, signed with Diane's looping signature, the same one she stamped across dozens of notices. "Why did you pay this?" Judge Judy asks. Arthur's breath catches. She said if I did not, she would start proceedings to remove me." His voice cracks on the last words. "My wife and I live on a fixed income. We could not afford to fight." Maya's eyes glisten, her jaw tightening. The entire room feels the weight of those words settle across the air like dust on sunlight. Diane snaps to life. "He misunderstood." "No," Arthur says suddenly, surprising everyone with the strength in his voice. "I did not misunderstand. You stood on my porch and said my home was at risk. You wore a badge. You shined a flashlight into my windows. You scared us." The tremor in his voice is not weakness, it is truth. Judge Judy's gaze sharpens to a blade. Ms. Mercer, what made you believe you had the right to extract money from this man? Diane clutches her binder. He was non-compliant, He was afraid, Judge Judy snaps, because you made him afraid. Diane looks around the room, searching for an ally she does not have. Her face contorts not from guilt, but from the panic of losing control. Arthur clears his throat. She chose me, he whispers, because I am old, because I would not fight back. Diane steps forward suddenly. I never targeted him, I never. Judge Judy slams her palm lightly on the bench, not loud but precise. Enough, she says. You will not talk over him, not in my courtroom. Diane freezes. Judge Judy leans forward. Ms. Mercer, why him? Why this man? The question lands like a silent thunderclap. Diane exhales Shaw. Kylie, her lips tremble. No answer forms. None that she is willing to say aloud. Judge Judy turns back to Arthur's trembling receipt. This, she says quietly, is not simple misconduct. This is predatory behavior. And Diane's eyes widen, because the truth she has avoided is now inescapable. Should fear ever count as consent? Or does justice demand accountability even when someone claims they meant no harm? Diane doesn't sit, she doesn't speak. She just stands there, frozen, as if the word predatory has reached inside her chest and rearranged something vital. And Judge Judy is far from finished. The courtroom holds a collective breath, tension settling like a storm cloud sinking lower and lower. Judge Judy turns her gaze toward the scattered notices spread across her desk. The false fines, the fabricated threats, the legal veneers copied from county documents. She lines them up with intentional care, her fingertips brushing each page as though reading the emotional residue still clinging to them. Ms. Mercer, Judge Judy begins, voice firm but controlled, your behavior toward Mr. Halpern was not an isolated incident. Diane's eyes flicker sharply. You don't know that. Judge Judy lifts a single page from Maya's folder, a screenshot printed from a neighborhood group thread. She holds it high enough for the gallery to see. I know this, she says. You targeted the elderly, the vulnerable, the residents least likely to challenge you. The camera zooms in on the screenshot. Diane's username beside a post laughing about non-compliant residents needing firm reminders, and referring to one neighbor as too confused to keep up. Whispers ripple through the gallery, disgust, outrage, recognition. Diane's face flushes deep red. Those were jokes, she snaps. People overreact. Maya sits straighter. She mocked people publicly, Maya says softly, her voice carrying more weight than volume. She wrote that single mothers always have excuses. She said immigrant families don't understand community rules and should be monitored. Judge Judy's expression sharpens. And you posted these comments under your real name, with your fake title attached to them. Diane stares at the ground. Her binder seems heavier in her arms, dragging her posture downward. You didn't just create a false authority, Judge Judy continues. You used it to select victims, to pressure the people least equipped to resist. That is a pattern, Ms. Mercer, a deliberate one. Diane's breath quickens. People needed structure, she says again, weaker this time. They needed guidance. No, Judge Judy says, they needed safety, and you violated that. The bailiff stands subtly straighter, sensing the shift from confrontation to exposure. The truth is no longer leaking out, it is pouring. Judge Judy turns to Maya. Ms. Torres, did she ever direct threats or specific attention toward you? Maya hesitates, a small pause but meaningful. Her fingers curl around the edge of the table, grounding herself. Yes, she says finally, she targeted me more than anyone. Diane's head jerks upward. That is not. Maya, Judge Judy interrupts, tell me why. Maya swallows hard. Her eyes shine with a restrained emotion, not tears exactly, but the tension of holding them back. She told me, Maya says quietly, that I was bringing down the neighborhood image. She said I didn't fit the vision she was trying to create. A thicker silence drops into the room. Diane's face twists, outrage, fear, something darker, but no denial comes. She only stares at Maya, jaw clenched so tightly the muscles in her neck tremble. Judge Judy leans forward, her voice soft but piercing. "Ms. Torres," she asks, "did she ever target you personally in a way you hesitated to speak about until now?" Maya inhales sharply. The room holds its breath. Maya closes her eyes for a moment, then opens them with a truth she can no longer carry alone. "Judge," she whispers, "there's something you haven't heard yet." And Diane's composure fractures like glass. Maya's breath catches, just once, but enough for the room to feel it. Her fingers tremble as they lift from the table. And for the first time all day, Diane looks genuinely afraid of something other than being caught. Judge Judy watches Maya with patience, not pressure. She doesn't push the words out of her. She simply creates the quiet where truth has no place left to hide. The gallery leans in unconsciously, the way people do when they sense a confession hovering in the air like a held note. Maya exhales. "There's a reason she targeted me," she says softly, her voice threaded with both courage and ache. Judge Judy nods once. "Tell me." Maya's eyes shift briefly to Diane, not with anger but with the haunted recognition of someone who has endured more than anyone realized. "She made comments," Maya begins. "Not about my lawn, not about my house, not about rules, about me." Diane stiffens, binder creaking in her tighten. "In grip, I never." Judge Judy raises a hand, silencing her instantly. Maya continues, voice steady but thin. "She said I didn't look like the kind of person who belonged in a place like Lakeside Ridge." The gallery murmurs low, shocked, a ripple of disbelief. Judge Judy's brows lower slightly, eyes sharpening. Maya swallows, and she left a voicemail the night she put a final notice on my door, a long one. I didn't want to share it unless I had to. "Play it," Judge Judy says. Maya reaches into her bag with slow, deliberate movements, as though the device inside carries the weight of months of fear. She hands her phone to the bailiff, who connects it to the court speaker with careful precision. The audio crackles, then opens on Diane's voice, not the forced professionalism from earlier recordings, but something rawer, unfiltered. "You think you're better than this place," the voicemail begins. "With your perfect house and your perfect lawn and your perfect little life. You don't deserve that house. People like you get everything handed to you." The room stiffens as the tone shifts, not authoritative but resentful, personal, cutting. Diane's face drains of color. The voicemail continues, trembling with emotion Diane tried so desperately to hide. "You didn't earn that home. You don't appreciate it. I deserved it. You just got lucky. And I'm not going to let your carelessness lower the neighborhood's standards." A soft gasp ripples through the gallery. Judge Judy's expression changes subtly but unmistakably. Her eyes narrow, her lips pressed together. The room feels a drop in temperature no thermostat could create. Maya's voice breaks only slightly. "It wasn't about rules. It wasn't about community. She singled me out because she hated that someone like me had something she didn't." Diane's binder slips in her hands. For a moment, she looks like she might shatter right there, her pride, her facade, her illusions all cracking at once. Judge Judy speaks, her voice quiet but razor-edged. "Ms. Mercer, this message suggests your behavior wasn't motivated by community concern. It was motivated by jealousy." Diane's mouth moves, but no words form. Judge Judy leans forward slowly. "Is there anything else in that voicemail, Ms. Torres?" Maya hesitates, a single second that stretches long and heavy. "There is," she whispers, "the ending." Judge Judy nods for the bailiff to play the final seconds. And as the last line echoes through the courtroom, every face turns toward Diane. Because her whispered words change everything. Diane doesn't speak. She doesn't blink. She just stands there, frozen, as her own whispered words echo through the courtroom like a confession she never meant anyone to hear. The last seconds of the voicemail fade, leaving a silence so dense the air seems to thicken around it. Diane's voice, trembling through the speaker moments earlier, still clings to the room's edges. You took the life that should have been mine. The lights hum faintly overhead. The gallery sits motionless, as though sound itself is waiting for permission to return. Even the bailiff, normally a stone pillar of detachment, shifts slightly, a human reaction to the raw vulnerability that spilled into the room. Judge Judy studies Diane with a gaze no longer simply investigative, but deeply perceptive. A gaze that sees beyond lies and legalities into the cracked foundation beneath. Ms. Mercer, Judge Judy says quietly, that voicemail did not speak about property values. It did not speak about community standards. It spoke about envy. Diane opens her mouth, but nothing comes out. Her throat works in a tight swallow, her eyes glossy with a mix of humiliation and something far older, a wound that predates the neighborhood, the notices, the badge. Judge Judy continues, her voice even but heavy with meaning. You targeted Ms. Torres because she represents something you wanted, something you felt you were denied. Diane's hands fall away from her binder. It slips from her arms, landing softly on the table with a dull thump that sounds strangely final, like a crown falling off a head that never deserved it. Her voice breaks. She bought that house at 28. I'm 42 and I don't have anything like that. Maya's lips part slightly, not in triumph but in grief, because envy exposed like this never feels powerful. It feels hollow, sad, human. Diane wipes at her cheek with the back of her hand. I work so hard. I've always worked hard, and people like her. She stops, breath shaking. People like her get ahead, and people like me stay where we are. Judge Judy doesn't soften, but she doesn't raise her voice either. Her tone is a steady, unwavering moral line. Ms. Mercer, envy is not a justification. It never has been. But it can become a powerful excuse to harm others if you allow it to. Diane nods slowly, staring at the floor. The badge photo on Judge Judy's desk catches her eye, that shiny emblem. She once believed would give her importance. Now it looks garish, pathetic, a symbol of everything she tried to fake. Maya speaks softly, surprising the room. You didn't have to hurt people. Diane's shoulders shake. I didn't want to be invisible. The words land with the weight of a lifetime behind them. But Judge Judy's voice cuts gently through the emotion. You were not invisible. You were irresponsible. You were reckless. And your decisions created fear, financial harm, and emotional distress. Diane nods again, smaller this time, as though each downcast motion chips a piece off the armor she crafted around herself. Judge Judy straightens. Now we must examine the full extent of the damage you inflicted. She gestures toward Maya. Ms. Torres, what is the total amount of fake fines Ms. Mercer circulated to the neighborhood? Maya lifts another document, the one she held back until now, hands trembling slightly. Judge Judy turns toward her, expression tightening. Maya, she says, read the number. And the courtroom braces, because everyone knows the truth is about to get heavier. Maya's hand trembles as she unfolds the paper. The courtroom leans forward in a single, instinctive motion. And Diane's breath stalls, like she's bracing for a blow she knows she deserves. Judge Judy waits with quiet patience, her fingers steepled, her gaze a steady line of focus cutting across the space between Maya and Diane. The paper in Maya's hand rustles, not loudly, but enough to fill the silence with tension. Maya clears her throat. The total amount, she says softly, of fabricated fines Ms. Mercer issued across the neighborhood is $15,800. A sharp inhalation sweeps through the gallery, a collective shock wrapped in disbelief. A mother in the second row covers her mouth. Someone whispers, That's insane. Even the bailiff's brows lift, a subtle but unmistakable reaction. Diane's face crumples. I didn't collect that, she blurts, desperation edging her words. I never got most of it. Judge Judy doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. You intended to, she says. You created an infrastructure of fear with the goal of collecting money you were not entitled to. That makes the harm real, even if the money never reached your hands. Diane's shoulders slump forward. Her confidence, once sharp as glass, lies shattered around her feet. Judge Judy picks up one of the notices, the one stamped "Immediate Seizure Warning." She holds it between two fingers, as though careful not to let the ink stain her integrity. This, she says, is a threat designed to coerce payment. Issuing documents like this without legal authority is not a misunderstanding. It is fraud. Diane shakes her head, eyes filling with frantic tears. I wasn't trying to steal, I swear. I just wanted people to listen. People listen to truth, Judge Judy replies, not intimidation. The words land with weight, not loud, but heavy enough to anchor the room. Maya quietly adds, some neighbors stopped sleeping. Mrs. Flynn had panic attacks. Mr. Halpern started locking his doors twice. My son asked me if we were going to lose our home. Diane flinches at every sentence, each one peeling away another layer of denial. Judge Judy turns to her fully now. Ms. Mercer, your actions caused emotional distress, financial fear, and reputational harm. You masqueraded as authority, you forged the appearance of power, and you used fear as a tool. Diane's breath hitches. I didn't mean. Judge Judy holds up a hand. Intent does not erase impact. The gallery falls silent again. Then Judge Judy gestures to Maya. Please hand me the final piece of evidence you submitted, the one in the sealed envelope. The bailiff retrieves a large manila envelope and places it on Judge Judy's desk with a soft thud, heavier than expected. Diane's eyes widen at the sight of it. What is that? She whispers, voice thin with dread. Judge Judy does not answer. She simply breaks the red seal with a precise motion and slides out a document thick with signatures and official formatting. The audience cranes to see. Diane steps back as though physically struck. No, she mutters. That was never supposed to. Judge Judy's eyes narrow as she examines the text. She lifts the document slowly, turning it toward the light. Ms. Mercer, she says, voice cold and quiet, did you forge these signatures? And the room freezes, because everyone knows the answer before Diane even opens her mouth. The sealed envelope lies open like a wound on the desk. The document inside glows under the courtroom lights, official formatting, signatures lined like soldiers. And Diane looks at it the way someone looks at an oncoming truth they can no longer outrun. Judge Judy lifts the document with both hands, not dramatically, but with the careful precision reserved for things that carry weight, legal weight, moral weight, the weight of intention. Hat has crossed a line. The pages are stiff, thick, each corner perfectly squared. Not the sloppy chaos of Diane's violation notices, something more crafted, more deliberate. She reads silently for a moment. The room grows so still that even the air seems to pause. Ms. Torres, Judge Judy says finally, please confirm for the record. This document was delivered anonymously to your mailbox. Maya nods. 2 weeks before Mr. Halpern paid her. I didn't know who sent it until later. Judge Judy holds the document up. This is an application to the county clerk's office for the creation of a formal homeowners association for Lakeside Ridge. A murmur ripples through the gallery, not outrage this time, but disbelief twisted with fear. Diane covers her mouth with trembling fingers. I wasn't submitting it, she whispers, shaking her head. I was drafting, preparing, testing the language. Judge Judy flips to the signature page. You forged the names of 17 residents. The words hit like a quiet explosion. People in the gallery gasp. One man stands halfway before sinking back into his seat, stunned. Maya exhales sharply, as though reliving the moment she first recognized her own forged signature. Diane's knees buckle, and she reaches blindly for the edge of the defendant's table to steady herself. "It wasn't meant to be sent," she pleads. "It was practice. I just needed to see how it might look." Judge Judy's eyes do not soften. "Forgery is not a draft, Ms. Mercer. It is a crime." Diane shakes her head faster now, panic rising like a tide. "I thought maybe one day, if the community understood my vision, if they realized the standards I could bring, if I just showed them something official." "You do not create legitimacy by faking it," Judge Judy says. "You create harm." The last word lands with a finality that makes the bailiff shift subtly closer. Judge Judy places the document flat on the desk. The signatures stare upward, some neat, some messy, all stolen, all false. Each one a small violation, together forming a betrayal too large to excuse. "This," Judge Judy continues, tapping the page, "removes any doubt about your intent. You did not accidentally overstep. You constructed a false authority step by step. Badge, notices, fines, intimidation, and finally this." Diane's voice cracks. "I wasn't going to send it, I swear to you. I just wanted them to see what order could look like." "Order," Judge Judy says, leaning forward, "is not created through lies." The room sits in unmoving silence, the kind that arrives when there is nowhere left for denial to hide. Judge Judy inhales, slow and controlled. Then, "Ms. Mercer, do you have anything left to say for yourself before I render judgment?" Diane opens her mouth. Nothing comes out. Her silence is the most honest thing she has offered all day. Judge Judy folds her hands, her expression clear and resolute. "Very well," she says. "Let's talk about consequences." And the courtroom braces, because the verdict is finally coming. Before the verdict lands, ask yourself, is envy an explanation, an excuse, or a warning? Judge Judy's hands fold together with the kind of calm that comes only when a decision is no longer forming, but formed. The room stills, sensing the end. And Diane, trembling, finally stops pretending she has any control left. Judge Judy's gaze sweeps the courtroom one final time, not to intimidate, to anchor, to ensure every person sitting there understands the gravity of what is about to be said. She turns first to Maya, whose hands rest lightly in her lap now, fingers unclenched for the first time since she walked in. "Ms. Torres," Judge Judy says, "you have endured harassment, intimidation, and targeted behavior that no resident should ever face in their own community. You carried the burden of proof with dignity, and the court recognizes the emotional toll this has taken on you and your son." Maya nods, eyes shining but steady. Judge Judy shifts her focus to the paper trail before her, the forged signatures, the fabricated fines, the badge gleaming like a discarded fantasy. She lifts the receipt Arthur Halpern brought forward, smoothing its edges as if restoring dignity to the man who held it in fear. "For Mr. Halpern," she continues, "you will reimburse the full $900 immediately." Diane's face collapses inward, but no sound escapes her. "In addition," Judge Judy says, "you will pay Ms. Torres and the Lakeside Ridge neighborhood a total of $4,000 in civil damages for the emotional distress and disruption your actions caused." A murmur of relief passes through the gallery. This is not vengeance, it is restoration. But Judge Judy is not done. As for the fabricated notices, the impersonation of authority, and the forged signatures, she places the forged HOA document at the center of the desk. All copies of these materials will be forwarded to the county authorities and to production for formal review. The words land like a final stone, sealing a vault. Diane's eyes widen, her already fragile composure fracturing. "Please," she whispers, voice cracking open, "please don't. You created this situation, Judge Judy says firmly but not unkindly, "and now you will face what you built." Diane drops her gaze to the table, shoulders trembling. She looks smaller now, not because judgment shrunk her, but because truth removed the illusion she had wrapped around herself. Judge Judy exhales softly, then speaks with a clarity that feels like light breaking through heavy clouds. "Ms. Mercer, you felt invisible, but instead of building something real, you chose a shortcut through fear. Power without permission is not leadership, it is exploitation." Diane swallows hard, tears balancing at the edges of her lashes. "And envy," Judge Judy adds, "is a dangerous compass. It leads people not toward what they truly want, but toward what they're willing to harm to feel important." The room absorbs the words in solemn silence. Judge Judy lifts her gavel just an inch, not to slam, but to steady the moment. "Judgment for the plaintiff," she says, "and may this be a turning point, Ms. Mercer, not a cycle." The gavel strikes once, clean, final, echoing through the courtroom like a breath released after too long being held. Diane nods through tears, not in victory, not even in understanding, but in surrender. Maya exhales a quiet, trembling breath, and for the first time her shoulders drop in relief.